Today, we will examine a tragic case that emerged during the 2012 Summer Olympics in London, featuring the young Puerto Rican boxer, Felix Vero Sanchez. He was heralded as a diamond, recognized as one of the most promising athletes from his nation, with expectations of winning titles and gold medals. At that time, it appeared that this talented and driven young man was destined for remarkable success in the world of sports. However, in 2021, his name resurfaced in global media, but this time it was associated with criminal activities. This narrative revolves around a teenage obsession that escalated into an addiction, culminating in a devastating tragedy. It also recounts the story of the boxer, who, despite being celebrated for his knockout victory in 2014 and receiving accolades from two-time Olympic champion Vasyl Lomachenko, faced a near-death sentence and ultimately was sentenced to life in prison. It is significant to note that, despite overwhelming evidence and the confession of an accomplice, the boxer continues to deny his guilt. Born on May 19, 1993, in San Juan, Puerto Rico, he grew up in a large, modest family and initially aspired to pursue a career in baseball. However, a pivotal incident at the age of 9, involving a quarrel with a friend during playtime, redirected his path toward boxing, as his father recognized the potential in his son. In the future, if someone wishes to engage in a fight, it would be advisable for them to don boxing gloves. Following this, Felix was taken to a local gym at his request, where he later confessed that he fell in love with boxing from his very first training session. At the age of 16, he triumphed in the Pan American Junior Championships, and the subsequent year, he secured his national championship title. The following year, he represented his country at the Olympic Games in London, where he advanced to the quarterfinals. That same year marked the beginning of his illustrious professional boxing career. Over the course of 29 bouts, Verdejo achieved 27 decisive victories. In 2014, he was celebrated for delivering the best knockout in his match against Sergio Villanueva. The following year, Felix claimed his inaugural championship belt, the WBO Latino title, which he successfully defended 6 additional times over the next 2 years. Observers of his fights were unanimous in their belief that this young athlete would etch his name into the annals of boxing history. Now, let us turn our attention to Keishla Rodríguez. Born in November 1993 in San Juan, her full name is Keishla Marlene Rodríguez Ortiz. Her parents, Jose and Keishla Rodríguez, also had another daughter named Bariz Nicole, and they raised Keishla's son Jonathan from a previous marriage. Keishla was an outgoing and sociable child who excelled academically and had a deep affection for animals, aspiring to become a veterinarian. Her closest confidant was her sister Bariz, to whom she shared all her secrets and concerns. Keishla attended the same school as Felix Verdejo, who was of the same age, and they had known each other since childhood. As they entered their teenage years, a bond began to develop between them. In 2011, Rodríguez's parents underwent a divorce, leading to Keishla relocating to live with relatives in Florida. Meanwhile, her adult daughters chose to remain in San Juan. Despite having established their own lives, the sisters maintained a close relationship, regularly sharing updates about their experiences. At the age of 18, a promising boxer who had already participated in the Olympic Games began a romantic involvement with a young schoolgirl and aspiring model, Elisa Maria Santiago Sierra, who was only 14 at the time. Despite her youth, Elisa harbored ambitious plans for a future with the renowned athlete. Furthermore, her parents were supportive of this relationship. Felix, an attractive and talented individual, enjoyed considerable fame and female attention as he rose to stardom in boxing. He often engaged in fleeting romances, and despite his serious commitment to Elisa, he continued to see his school friend Keishla. Keishla Rodríguez, Elisa's mother, was aware of this affair and disapproved of it. The situation was complicated. Elisa believed she was Felix's one true love and was preparing for their wedding, while Keishla was cognizant of the engagement yet found it difficult to sever ties with him. In her heart, the naive girl still clung to the hope of being the first great love. In 2016, the boxer married the young Elisa, who was nearly 19 at the time. By then, Elisa had already gained considerable fame as a model, boasting tens of thousands of followers on social media, and had launched her own beauty studio specializing in eyelash extensions. However, just a few months after their wedding, the athlete was involved in a severe motorcycle accident, resulting in serious head injuries, bruises, and lacerations. His trainer, Ricky Marquez, was deeply concerned that his promising career might be derailed. Contrary to the grim expectations, Felix made a swift recovery and returned to the boxing ring. In September 2019, the boxer shared a photo on social media featuring Eliza, who was visibly pregnant. In the caption, he expressed his excitement about soon meeting his daddy's princess. A month later, he proudly announced the birth of their daughter, whom they named Miranda Verdejo Santiago. Publicly, Felix portrayed himself as a devoted husband and caring father, embodying the image of an exemplary family man. However, unbeknownst to Eliza, he continued to see Keishla, a relationship he struggled to end. Eliza later revealed that she suspected her husband was unfaithful, but each time he tearfully promised to leave his mistress, she found herself believing him. Keishla, despite her attempts to sever ties, remained entangled in a painful relationship, as Felix threatened her if he discovered she was seeing other men. A person unsuitable for her, along with her chosen partner Keishla, who had harbored feelings for Verdejo since high school, continued to love him despite the circumstances. Rodríguez, as intended, intertwined her life with animal care and secured a position at a veterinary medicine and aesthetics center. Her colleagues characterized her as diligent, hardworking, and highly responsible. She shared her home with 2 dogs and a cat, whom she cherished deeply. In 2020, Eliza discovered her husband's correspondence with multiple mistresses, including Keishla. This revelation led to a scandal, prompting her to expel him from their home while threatening to file for divorce and restrict his access to their daughter. Eliza's threats had a significant impact, coinciding with a notable decline in the athlete's career, which brought about unnecessary complications. For a time, he ceased contact with Rodríguez, yet Felix continued to exert control over her, monitoring nearly every aspect of her life. After several months of clandestine meetings, Keishla learned in April 2021 that she was pregnant. She purchased a home pregnancy test from a pharmacy, which confirmed her fears. She immediately reached out to her sister, who was aware of her tumultuous relationship with the athlete, and shared the news. Abortion was not an option for her, as Keishla was already 27 years old and felt prepared to embrace motherhood, even if it meant raising the child alone. A few days later, Keishla informed the child's father, hoping for a positive response. However, Felix reacted with anger, insisting that she should seek medical advice regarding the pregnancy. It was confirmed that an abortion would be necessary. Rodríguez responded with a resolute refusal. However, the boxer began to threaten her and insisted on his demands. Felix argued that having an illegitimate child would ultimately tarnish his reputation, a situation he could not permit. Following Keishla's visit to the hospital, her pregnancy was verified, and she obtained a certificate to substantiate it. She contacted Felix to inform him of the situation, which incited his fury. Felix shouted at her, insisting that Keishla must terminate the pregnancy immediately, but she once again firmly declined. Subsequently, the athlete decided to take a covert approach, expressing disbelief in her claims and requesting to see the medical certificate in person. He arranged to meet Keishla in the evening at a public location, a choice that did not surprise her, as they typically avoided drawing attention to themselves. A few days prior to the meeting, Felix visited his old acquaintance, Luis Antonio Cadiz, who worked at a local machine shop and had connections to the criminal underworld through the sale of illegal drugs. Felix briefly explained his predicament and sought Luis's assistance in eliminating his pregnant mistress. Although Luis had previously attracted police attention and feared imprisonment, Felix was insistent, assuring him that everything would proceed without incident and that the authorities would not catch wind of their actions. Additionally, Felix promised Luis a substantial monetary reward, leading Luis to agree to assist him. With the help of an accomplice, Felix contacted Keishla and informed her that he wished to meet on the evening of April 29 to verify her pregnancy. Following her conversation with her lover, Keishla promptly called her sister to disclose everything. She still held on to the hope that Felix would accept her child and refrain from insisting on an abortion. However, the entire situation alarmed her. She was aware that her boyfriend had threatened her sister, raising concerns about his potential actions. Keishla reached out to her mother to express her worries, but even together, they could not dissuade Keishla from attending the impending meeting. At the designated time, Rodríguez arrived at the meeting with a doctor's note, driving her Kia Forte, while Verdejo approached in his pickup truck, concealing Luis in the back. Keishla immediately entered the athlete's car and presented him with the test results. Once again, he broached the subject of terminating the pregnancy, but Keishla, in tears, firmly refused. This led to a heated argument between the couple, escalating into shouting. Suddenly, Felix struck Keishla in the head with his fist, causing her to lose consciousness. While Keishla was incapacitated, Felix retrieved a syringe containing a substantial dose of illegal substances from the glove compartment, which Luis had procured at his request, and injected Keishla. Together with his accomplice, they transported her to the back of the vehicle, where they had already prepared pieces of wire and a concrete block. The men bound Rodríguez, affixed the weight, and then covered her with a tarp to prevent any accidental discovery. Felix then returned to the pickup truck while his accomplice took the wheel of Keishla's car. They drove together to the bridge spanning the San Jose Lagoon, which was nearly deserted at night. Ensuring that no one was watching, the men disposed of Keishla, who was still alive, by throwing her into the water. Subsequently, they decided to fire a few test shots in pursuit, utilizing the firearms they had brought along, ensuring that the victim had no chance of survival. Once the heinous act was completed, each perpetrator returned home. Keishla's colleagues were the first to express concern when she failed to appear at the Veterinary Medicine and Aesthetics Center the following day. Keishla had always been diligent and would not simply miss work without informing anyone. After she did not respond to phone calls, it was decided to reach out to her sister for further information. Following several unsuccessful attempts to contact her, her sister went to Keishla's residence. When no one answered the door, Rodríguez used a spare key to enter, only to be greeted by hungry pets that had gone without food for nearly 24 hours. Panic set in for Rodríguez as she realized that something dreadful or irreversible had likely happened to Keishla. She immediately contacted their mother to relay the situation and subsequently reported her concerns and threats regarding her sister to the police. She also reached out to Felix, who claimed he had spent the previous evening and night at home with his family and had not attended any meeting. The missing girl's mother took the earliest flight from Florida to San Juan, fearing that her partner might have taken her daughter to a private clinic for an abortion without her knowledge. Keishla could hardly bear to contemplate such a possibility. The initial step following the confirmation of Keishla's death was to interview her neighbors and colleagues. Unfortunately, they reported no unusual activity and were unable to provide any pertinent information to aid the investigation. Concurrently, social media platforms were flooded with messages regarding Rodríguez's disappearance, appealing to anyone with knowledge of her situation or whereabouts. The case rapidly garnered significant attention, particularly after it was revealed that the missing individual was in a long-term relationship with a well-known athlete and was expecting his child. This revelation prompted a surge of reporters eager to interview Rodríguez's family members. The relatives expressed their concerns openly, with some directing blame towards Felix regarding the circumstances of her disappearance. On April 30, Keishla's vehicle was discovered abandoned on the eastern side of the city, containing her personal documents and belongings. The absence of any signs of a struggle within the car offered a glimmer of hope for her safe return. However, on May 1, a passerby walking across a bridge over the lagoon noticed an unusual shape in the shallow waters, resembling a human body. Upon reporting this to the authorities, the police soon retrieved the body of a young woman, believed to be the individual the entire city had been searching for over the past few days. When the Rodríguez family arrived to identify the body, they clung to the hope that it was not Keishla. Unfortunately, their hopes were dashed. The body had been submerged for several days and had undergone significant changes, yet the young woman was promptly identified. A notable tattoo adorned her arm when the shocking news of the gruesome discovery reached the media. The city's residents erupted in protest, organizing spontaneous rallies to demand accountability for those responsible. On the same day, Verdejo was apprehended and brought to the police station for interrogation. However, the athlete firmly denied any involvement, asserting that he had been at home with his family on the night Keishla went missing. Due to insufficient evidence to charge him, Felix was released on his own recognizance. One of the crucial witnesses was the athlete's legal wife, who, during her initial questioning, revealed that she was aware of his affair with Keishla but had only just learned of her rival's pregnancy. Furthermore, she did not corroborate her husband's alibi, stating that he was not at home on the night of the murder. Investigators promptly reviewed traffic surveillance footage leading to the bridge from which Keishla was thrown, which revealed Felix's pickup truck and the victim's vehicle traveling in tandem. However, it was evident that the Kia Forte was not being driven by its registered owner. On the same day, the boxer's vehicle was confiscated for examination, and hair belonging to the deceased was discovered within it. Luis was the first to surrender to the authorities, offering to disclose the complete truth in exchange for a lighter sentence. Felix was also taken into custody but chose not to cooperate with the investigation, refusing to answer questions and maintaining his innocence despite the presence of compelling evidence. A firearm, which he allegedly used to shoot the victim from the bridge, was seized from Felix. Felix Lease possessed an official permit, and a cell phone check corroborated that he and Keishla were present at the same location on that tragic night. The final farewell took place on May 8th, and the funeral ceremony garnered extensive national media coverage. This event served as a call to action for the prosecution of those responsible for the tragedy, emphasizing the need for justice and raising awareness about the issue of gender violence. The coffin containing Rodríguez's remains was transported to the cemetery not in a conventional hearse, but rather in a white carriage, adorned with white flower petals that were scattered from above. Numerous prominent figures from Puerto Rico, including celebrities, athletes, politicians, and other public personalities, voiced their opinions regarding this high-profile case. Verdejo faced charges of carjacking, kidnapping, premeditated murder, and the murder of an unborn child, all of which carried the possibility of the death penalty. However, the victim's family consistently requested that the court impose a life sentence on the perpetrator, advocating for him to endure a lifetime of suffering in prison. The hearing faced multiple delays due to the global COVID-19 pandemic, but in the spring of 2021, the trial was conducted virtually. The court determined that the crime was executed by a group of individuals in a premeditated manner, exhibiting particular cruelty towards a pregnant woman. The sequence of events from that night and the specifics of the crime were largely reconstructed through the testimony of Lease, who did not contest his guilt and acknowledged that he acted at the request of another individual. A friend procured the drug for injection and also provided a wire and a concrete block to dispose of the body. Despite this, Felix maintained his insistence on being uninvolved in the matter, although his claims did not significantly influence the circumstances. Meanwhile, the wife of the boxer, who served as a witness in court, promptly filed for divorce following her husband's arrest. She attempted to distance herself from the unfolding events, concentrating instead on the growth of her business and the upbringing of their young daughter. Reports indicate that Elisa Santiago remarried not long ago. Elisa herself revealed in an interview that she had received numerous anonymous calls and messages containing death threats, as well as wishes for her demise and that of Miranda. Many speculated that the athlete's spouse was the mastermind behind the crime, yet no evidence supported this claim. In the summer of 2023, it was reported that the jury, after reviewing all evidence and hearing witness testimonies, was prepared to deliver a final verdict. Felix Verdejo and his accomplice, Luis Cadiz, were found guilty on all counts against them. However, sentencing for the killers has yet to occur, with the next court hearing set for mid-November 2023. It is anticipated that both individuals implicated in the deaths of Keishla Rodríguez and her unborn child will likely receive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Thank you for your attention.